Hi everybody, this is Lindsay from windingroadcrochet.com. Today I'm going to show you how to make this beginner-friendly boho shawl. And if you like this tutorial, make sure you give me a thumbs up, as well as subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell to be notified of future video tutorials. I have the written pattern for this pattern and several other free crochet patterns on my blog. You can find the links in the description box below. So I'm going to be using the Lion brand Comfy Cotton. It is a lightweight size 3 yarn and a size H or 5mm crochet hook. Now you are going to want to chain 205 for your shawl, but you will notice that I am going to chain less just to make a small sample, but I will show you how to begin, do the middle, and finish each row. This is a really easy pattern using only chain and double crochet, and then we are going to be working a repeat throughout the entire middle of the pattern, and I will put the repeat up in the upper right hand corner. To start row 1, you are just going to double crochet into the 3rd chain from the hook and into every chain across the row. Once you finish row 1, you're just going to chain 2 and turn your work. And in this row we are going to double crochet into the 1st stitch, and then we'll start our repeat, which is chain 1, skip a stitch, and then double crochet into the following stitch, and you'll repeat that all the way across the row. So just chain 1, skip the next stitch, and double crochet into the following stitch. And you can see the repeats indicated by the little red square at the top. Your very last repeat should end up in the very last stitch, and that will complete row 2. To start row 3, we are just going to chain 2 again and then turn our work. We are not counting that chain 2 as a stitch, so we are going to double crochet into the 1st stitch. We are going to double crochet into the next chain space, and we're going to repeat that all the way across. So it's double crochet into the next stitch and double crochet into the next chain space, and when you're done you'll have another completely solid row of double crochet. Alright, so you're just going to double crochet into the very last stitch, and we're ready to start row 4. So we will chain 2 and turn our work. And row 4 is worked exactly like row 2. So we're going to double crochet into the 1st stitch. We're going to chain 1, skip a stitch, and then double crochet into the following stitch. And just repeat this all the way across. Chain 1, skip a stitch, and work into the following stitch. And so we'll work a last double crochet into the very last stitch, and we'll be ready to work on row 5. So start row 5, we're chain 2 again, just like the beginning of every row. And this is a similar row, but we are just simply going to offset our stitches. So to do this, we're going to double crochet into the 1st stitch, and then we will double crochet into the 2nd stitch, which is a chain space. Now we will start a repeat of chain 1, skip the stitch, and work a double crochet into the chain space. This just gives the row a little bit more interest than stacking our stitches right on top of each other. So just continue repeating chain 1, skip your stitch, and work a double crochet into the chain space all the way across. When you get to the end, you're going to work a double crochet into the last chain space, and then just finish off your row by working a double crochet into the last stitch. Now we are moving right along to row 6, and in row 6 you'll start again by chaining 2, turn your work, and work a double crochet into the very 1st stitch, chain 1, skip the stitch, and work a double crochet into the chain space. And then just repeat that, chain 1, skip the stitch, work a double crochet into the chain space, and do this all the way across, ending with a double crochet in your very last stitch. So to finish, we're going to double crochet into the last chain space, chain 1, skip the second to last stitch, and then double crochet into the very last stitch, and that will finish off this row. And then we'll move right along to row 7, which is actually just a repeat of row 5. To do that, you will double crochet into the first stitch, double crochet into the first chain space, and then you'll start your repeat of chain 1, skip a stitch, and double crochet into the next chain space, and repeat that all the way across. And to finish this row, you're just going to work a double crochet into your last chain space, and then a double crochet into the very last stitch of this row. And now we're ready for row 8. And so we want to change up our stitch pattern a little bit, but before we do that, we're going to make a solid row of double crochet. So chain 2, and then double crochet in every stitch and chain space all the way across this row. And so you'll just work a double crochet into your very last stitch at the end of this row, and we're ready to move on to row 9. So again, just chain 2 and double crochet into the first stitch. And then this time what we will do is we will chain 2, skip 2 stitches, and then double crochet into the following stitch. And the slight variation makes this pattern very easy, but also gives the pattern a lot of interest. So again, you're going to chain 2, skip 2 stitches, and work a double crochet into the following stitch, and repeat that all the way across. And when you reach the end of this row, you'll notice you have 1 stitch left, so we're just going to double crochet into that very last stitch. And there you go. Now we're ready to start row 10, and row 10 we're actually going to repeat 5 total times. So to do this row, we are going to chain 2 and turn our work. We're going to double crochet into the first stitch. We are going to chain 1 and then double crochet into the chain 2 space. And this is where we are going to start our repeat. So our repeat is going to be chain 2, skip the stitch and work a double crochet into the chain 2 space, and you'll just repeat that all the way across the row. Chain 2 and then double crochet in the next chain 2 space. When you get to the end of the row, after you work into the last chain 2 space, you are just going to double crochet into the very last stitch. And there you have it. Now just repeat row 10 4 more times. The only slight difference is that your second to last double crochet is worked into a chain 1 space instead of a chain 2 space. But other than that, it is just a repeat of row 10 for another 4 times. So here you can see I've repeated row 10 a total of 5 more times. So we have 6 rows of these 2 chain repeats. And now we're just going to make another solid row across the top, and if you've noticed, our stitch count is 1 off, so we're going to fix that as well. So you're just going to double crochet into the first 2 stitches and then double crochet twice into every chain 2 space. And we're going to do that all the way across until we reach that chain 1 space. So when you reach that last chain 1 space, we're actually going to work 2 double crochet into the chain 1 space, and that is going to fix our stitch count. And then we'll work a double crochet into the very last stitch. So from this moment on, moving up the next few rows, all we are going to be doing is actually repeating rows that we've already done. So when you work rows 16 through 27, you're just going to be repeating rows 4 through 15, which is both of our different stitch patterns and the solid rows in between. And then after that, you're just going to work rows 28 and 32 are going to repeat a repeat of rows 4 through 8 as well, which is that single chain skip stitch pattern that we did at the very bottom. So this pattern right here, we'll just repeat that as well. So follow these. Go ahead and skip back to earlier in the video if you need to be able to take a look at what you need to do for those rows. And then once you repeat all these rows, I will show you how to finish off the shawl. So after you finish up all those repeats, which I've done here, you have your 2 different sections of the thicker repeats and the 3 of the little bit more condensed repeats. Now it's time to go ahead and finish up our shawl, and we're going to do this by basically repeating what we did at the beginning of the shawl so it looks the same on both sides. To do this, you're just going to chain 2 and turn your work. We're going to double crochet into the first stitch, chain 1, skip the next stitch and double crochet into the following stitch, and you'll probably notice that this is a repeat of row 2. So again, chain 1, skip a stitch and double crochet into the next stitch and repeat that all the way across. And then with this repeat, your last stitch of your repeat should end up in the very last stitch of the row. And then move right along to row 34, our very last row. We're going to chain 2 and turn, double crochet into the first stitch, double crochet into the first chain space, and then repeat that all the way across the row. So we're just making another solid row. And then just to finish this row, you'll just double crochet into the very last stitch. And now your shawl is done. We only have to add the finishing touches, which means we need to fasten off and weave in our ends. And then if you want to, you can add fringe to the side. To add fringe, you're just going to want to cut several 7-inch pieces of strands. I'm using 2 together. Just line those up and then fold them in half. And then I put 2 strands on the edge of each row here. So I'm going to push my hook through the row, put that loop I made over my hook, pull it through the stitch, and then yarn over with all 4 strands and pull those through the 2 loops on the hook. And then just pull it tight. And you're going to repeat that for the side of every row that we have on the shawl on both ends, both of these short ends. So just to show you one more time, I take 2 strands of yarn, I make a loop, I put my hook through the next stitch, yarn over with both of those loops, pull it through, yarn over with 4 strands of yarn and pull it through those 2 loops, and just pull it tight. Add all your fringe and your shawl will be done. I really hope you enjoy your boho shawl. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and check out my other videos.